In 1983, a group called Daikon Film debuted a short animated intro at the Japan Sci-Fi Convention in Osaka. The convention was called Daikon 4, and whether anyone there that day knew it or not, this short animated intro would go on to become an integral part of anime history. On December 24th, 1984, Daikon Film Group incorporated as an official company, changing their name to Gainax. 1 year later, in 1985, another company would be formed in Tokyo, a general software company that quickly saw early success on the NEC PC-8800 series of the run-and-gun video game Thexter. The company was called Game Arts. By 1987, Thexter had sold over 500,000 copies in Japan. In 1990, Game Arts and Gainax would meet to begin talks about collaborating on a video game. The two companies continued to meet twice a week to discuss the game, until eventually a clear setting, theme, and character emerged. A game titled Alisia Dragoon. One of the things that would make this game unique was the way it implemented options. In an April 1991 edition of Beat Mega Drive magazine in Japan, Yoshimi Kanda, a designer at Gainax, had this to say. As our discussions progressed, we realized if this is an STG game, we've got to have options. But traditional Gradius-style options really tied us into using robots in the setting. Somewhere along the way, someone came up with the image of a girl leading a host of weird beasts into battle, and we all thought this was a really cool idea. In Japanese shoot-'em-up games of the time, the word option could refer to the concept of a shooting game having one or more forms of help other than the primary weapons used by the player. This often came in the form of sub-weapons, and other times in the form of additional ships, drones, or other entities that would follow and assist the player in some way. In a time where most shooting games took place in the skies or in space, this game was played on the ground, in forests, temples, mountains, and caverns. Yoshimi Kanda explains, "It isn't so much about coming up with something brand new anymore as it is artfully and creatively combining existing tropes into something new. I learned during this development that game worlds are very unique, so I did my best to create a setting for Alisia Dragoon that deferred in some instances to the needs of the game." Game Arts and Gainax maintained a great working relationship, moving quickly to see their concept through to a finished product. In early 1992, Alisia Dragoon would release in Japan and North America on the Sega Genesis and Sega Mega Drive. Alisia Dragoon is a shooting-style game, similar to games like Gradius and Thunder Force. It's played on the ground in a fantasy setting, with RPG elements and even some platforming and puzzle portions. The player controls Alisia, who has the blood of a dragon knight and the ability to shoot lightning from her fingertips. The Japanese game manual calls this ability lightning strike magic. The lightning automatically targets enemies for the player, as long as the enemy is in the relative direction they're facing. Alisia can continue to attack so long as the lightning gauge has power. If she runs out, she will be unable to attack again until it fills. The gauge fills fairly quickly as long as Alisia isn't attacking. The lightning will split into multiple beams to facilitate larger groups of enemies. While it's possible to level up the raw power of the lightning strike magic, the true power comes from Alisia's rolling bolt ability, which the Japanese manual says is 30 times as powerful as the lightning strike attack. The player can only use this ability when the lightning gauge is built up to its max level. When it's completely full, it will begin to flash, indicating that the rolling bolt ability is ready. On the next attack, the player will release 2 massive lightning bolts that clear the screen. In addition to Alisia's lightning magic, she has the ability to summon 1 of 4 monsters to assist her in battle. These monsters follow Alisia automatically and act on their own, attacking when able. The graphics are fantastic, and like many of the titles on the Mega Drive, there are large, standout sprites. The backgrounds are detailed and have vibrant colors, often making use of parallax scrolling effects. Even with all of the action on screen, the frame rate stays tight and consistent, with very little of the slowdown shooting games of this time often suffered from. On their journey throughout the game, both Alisia and the monsters can be leveled up. increasing their HP and attack power in a fashion common to RPGs. While earlier builds of the game seemed to have experience points, the final game instead relied on the player obtaining certain pickups to increase their abilities. There are in total 10 pickups or power-ups that Alisia can find throughout her adventure. Classic restoratives like potions for Alisia or meat for her monsters will restore HP. A star-shaped pickup will level up your currently selected monster, increasing their HP and strengthening their abilities. Each monster can level up twice to reach level 3. A separate power-up allows Alisia to increase her own HP bar, and a lightning bolt pickup increases the level and power of Alisia's lightning strike magic. She can level up her magic from 1 all the way to level 8, and will need to do so in order to challenge some of the game's tougher enemies. There's an invincibility pickup that allows Alisia to be temporarily invulnerable to damage, and another that briefly allows her to perform the rolling bolt ability without waiting to charge up. There's a monster revive, in case one of Alisia's monsters loses all of its HP along the way. Finally, there's a 1-up, which lets Alisia continue her adventure even after losing all of her health. All of these power-ups come inside of a floating receptacle, which must be shot down in order to release the item contained within, a classic trope of shooting games. The story of Alisia Dragoon is basically the same between the Japanese and North American releases. Alisia is setting out on a journey to save the planet from the evil forces that killed her father. These same evil forces seek to awaken a god, Baldur, who is currently sleeping in a cocoon. In the Japanese game manual, the leader of this cult is called Dolga. The North American game manual describes how Alisia can still hear her father's cries of agony ringing out in her ears. This is pretty dark for a shooting game on the Sega Genesis, considering in North America, games like this were mostly marketed toward younger children. However, the Japanese manual goes even further, referencing how the enemy built a castle upon her father's corpse. He is described as the last dragoon, suggesting other dragoons had either fallen or defected to the forces of evil. In the February and March 1992 editions of Beat Mega Drive magazine in Japan, a 5-page prequel comic was released. It goes into detail about the cult of Baldur, who seem to be moving through the universe on massive ships. The cult waits in hypersleep, with the ship only signaling to wake them if they reach a civilized planet to conquer. One such ship malfunctions and diverts to make an emergency landing on Alisia's planet. The cult members awake and immediately begin a holy war with the planet's populace. Many of the Dragon Knights either fall or turn to the side of the invaders. Alisia, only 5 years old, and her father fight back. They are said to have destroyed 8 of 10 cocoons, making it unclear if Baldur is a singular entity or if there could have been other gods. Alisia's father falls at the hands of a former ally, a Dragon Knight who turned to the side of Dolga. During the fight, Alisia loses consciousness as her father is defeated, waking up sometime later in the care of an unknown man who seems to be a monk or hermit of some sort. Alisia has amnesia, and the monk works with her to train her innate dragon blood abilities. Years later, he reveals himself to be the very same renegade Dragon Knight who killed her father. It seems her father's dying words brought guilt and shame to the renegade knight, who silently swore to care for Alisia until she was ready to face Dolga. After burning a cocoon that he'd guarded for years, he presses his head to Alisia's and shares her forgotten memories with her once again, revealing the truth of her identity and his and causing her to lose consciousness. When she awakes, he is gone, set off on a journey as a Dragon Knight once more. During the events of the actual game, Alisia follows reports of Dolga himself appearing at the Temple of Sealing, a place where it seems he has been hiding the final cocoon containing Baldur. She chases after him as he escapes with the cocoon, making his way to a temple in the sky. Alisia follows his minions on a strange living airship to a hidden underground cavern where the very same massive ship mentioned in the prequel comic crash-landed here a decade ago and is buried deep within the earth. Alisia battles for control of the craft, finally arriving at the Sky Temple, where Dolga awaits. She is too late, and Baldur awakens. Alisia and the Dark God battle, the very fate of the planet resting on the outcome. If the player is able to defeat him, they watch as the god and his floating temple begin to crumble and fall, with Alisia inside. Having saved her home and avenged her father, Alisia accepts her fate as she falls back down to the surface of the planet. In a final glorious moment, the monsters who helped her along the way summon themselves and work together to save her from her descent. Riding on the back of the dragon Chikusasa, Alisia begins the long journey back home to where she started. The world of Alisia Dragoon is filled with an eclectic mix of enemies, many of which appear in multiple forms as the journey progresses. Early on, Alisia is harassed by swarms of large insects in different colors. Small goblin-like creatures swoop down from above, ambushing her. Giant centipedes roll across the ground and attempt to collide with Alisia, and flocks of black bats dive at her in several different locations. Other foes rely on mystic arts. Strange mushroom growths called Jangaru scatter spores when disturbed, and spectral stone-dropping figures called Golem are said to be the spirits of fallen quarry workers. Marta are melee specialists who teleport directly into Alisia's path, attempting to strike her with tridents. Robed warriors known as Saida will teleport in front of or behind Alisia and attack by conjuring bursts of Qigong energy. Similar to Saida are Saida Bad, mysterious warriors riding floating platforms who steer them with Qi energy, which they also hurl at Alisia. She encounters weak and easy-to-defeat slimes in the temple's ceiling, later contrasted by a far tougher species found in the Sky Temple, called Dahlia. They are said to have unexpectedly tough skin. Some environments introduce mechanical threats, such as wall-crawling robots called Gerudo, who attempt to grab Alisia and explode, or other robotic enemies, who spring to life when Alisia is close by. Armored enemies called Soban teleport in front of Alisia and use firearms blasting lightning-like energy in later stages. In the caverns, small masked enemies erupt from the earth, with a much larger teleporting version named Chagan appearing deeper in the game. For each of the 8 stages in the game, there is at least one boss somewhere within that stage's levels. At the end of level 1C, Alisia fights the twin combatants, Maro and Marsh. These two are given their own small section in the Japanese game manual, where they are described as masters of telekinesis and psychokinesis. They are said to be referred to as the Twin Devils, due to their ability to take down enemies with highly coordinated attacks. In Stage 2, even though there is only one level, there are actually 2 bosses. The first is Marmashi, the underwater demon. When Alisia encounters Marmashi halfway through Stage 2, she must defeat it in order to progress. At the end of Stage 2, the player encounters Giebel, who the manual says is summoned from another dimension by Dolga. The very sight of it is said to freeze people in their tracks, making them easy prey for its large fangs. With extremely tough skin, impervious even to Alisia's lightning, its only weak point is exposed when its jaws are open. In Stage 3, we see Gedimble, the strange parasite that seems to be creating its own ecosystem on the back of the living airship, Zabaran. In Stage 4, there is a large pterodon, Yardid, who seems to be significantly more difficult on some playthroughs than others. In Level 5B, Alisia encounters the ancient rock drill, Gazshen, a name revealed in a 1992 May edition of Beep Mega Drive. At the end of Level 6B, the player encounters the wizard Jingu Habal, who attacks by controlling 2 massive guns using psychokinesis. In Level 7, Alisia fights the Great Shrine Hazar, who attacks alongside 4 Habalu, similar to the one fought in 6B. Finally, in Level 8, Alisia goes head-to-head with Dolga, who tells her she's already too late. As Alisia finally defeats him, his words ring true. Baldur begins to arise from the cocoon. In the final battle of the game, Alisia must fight against the malformed and reborn Baldur, who attacks by hurling summoned snakes, using psychokinesis to launch projectiles, and by shooting giant plumes of plasma into the air that come raining down from above. When Alisia finally defeats Baldur, The very floating temple she's standing in, the one described as the Shrine of the Madmen in the sky, comes crashing down from the clouds. Initial critical reviews in Japan weren't impressive, with the popular publication Famitsu giving the game a middling score of 19 out of 40. This was certainly not for lack of marketing. Various ads were shown in the 1991 and 1992 Beat Mega Drive publications throughout Japan. And there's even mention of the game being delayed, with the article suggesting there had at least been some people who were waiting for news on the game's development. Elsewhere in the world, reviews were far more positive. In issue 34 of GamePro magazine, reviewers gave the game a near-perfect score. Mean Machine magazine in the UK gave it an 87% overall score, and was most impressed with the graphics. Sales, however, were a different story. While numbers are difficult to find and harder to aggregate, in general, the game did not sell well. Perhaps it had something to do with the increased price due to the 8 megabit cartridge. The game retailed in North America for roughly $70, which when adjusted for inflation is over $150 in 2025. By 1992, the Mega Drive was already full of classic titles such as Sonic the Hedgehog and Streets of Rage, as well as no shortage of shooting games or action platformers. Other amazing games that would release in 1992 included Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Streets of Rage 2, Thunder Force 4, and Shining Force, all games that would compete with the action, shooting, platforming, or RPG elements offered by Alisia Dragoon. This essentially buried the title behind others that would go on to become landmark successes for the console. While Alisia Dragoon never made a particularly large impact when it was released, or even during the Mega Drive's lifetime, many fans and reviewers came to respect it decades later as an impressive title trying to put a fresh spin on an otherwise crowded and trope-heavy genre. In 2019, the Sega Genesis Mini was released and featured 42 games, including Alisia Dragoon, meaning even people with a passing interest in what the system had to offer in its heyday will be able to experience this special game. Made when two companies came together in the early 90s to combine their experience and love of art, manga, and video games into something special. In the 1991 Beep interview, Yoshimi Kanda is asked to give one final message to the readers. The way we made this game was to think of all the things that annoyed us about the different games we played, and then try to remove or eliminate those things one by one. I think that's the game's biggest selling point. It's my hope that players won't just run through the game to the end, but will take their time and enjoy the atmosphere of the world, and the art and graphics too. Thanks for watching until the end of the video. I hope you got the chance to learn something new, and if not, I hope you still enjoyed hearing about this game. If you like this kind of content and want to see more, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below with your thoughts, and thanks again.